All right, so this video is designed to discuss capitalism. Capitalism is the most important economic system that we have here in America. It is the economic system that guides American life and our transactions with one another. It is certainly the most powerful economic system in the world today. And there's other competing systems such as communism, socialism, but certainly capitalism has seemed to won the day. Now, whether capitalism in its pure form still exists is certainly a question, and whether capitalism is being overregulated and diminished is certainly a claim made by many. But in terms of a system, it's really, really important to understand because, again, it guides our life. It's also important to understand in this class, and the reason for that is that some have said capitalism is a very kind of cruel, harsh system. It's a very Machiavellian system where it's all about self-interest and winning and defeating the opponent and gaining power. So some have made that argument, but it's also true that the next theorist we're going to study in this course, Milton Friedman, is also a firm believer and defender of capitalism. So not only is it the key economic system in our own daily lives, it's very important in terms of relating it to two of our central figures, Machiavelli and Friedman. Okay, so the chapter with Gibson begins by saying essentially capitalism is all pervasive. It affects every area of our life, from our job to our home life to what we watch on TV. There's constantly the sense of being sold stuff and being a consumer as a goal. But what is it? What are some of these assumptions? What are some of the basic principles of capitalism? And some of the basic principles are people that operate out of self-interest, that's what we're guided by. So in that sense, you could say it's a bit Machiavellian as a premise. Another premise is that consumers are demanding enough, are wise enough to demand things that will increase their well-being. In other words, that each person has the wherewithal, has the knowledge, has the ability to understand what is good and bad for them, and they will purchase things that are good for them. Competition is good. Capitalism believes that companies and businesses should be competing against one another for customers. The market will reward those who are industrious and innovative. So industry and innovation, creativity, determining a new market demand, or serving an existing market in a new way is something that capitalism is going to encourage. And that's related to entrepreneurship, the ability to take risks and to look at the world in a different way. Economic growth should be encouraged. The invisible hand functions to promote our best interest. And the invisible hand is a theory, really critical theory to capitalism, that says when people operate out of self-interest, essentially they're going to benefit the whole. It's somewhat paradoxical because you think when individuals pursue their self-interest, when they do what is best for them, they're inevitably going to harm others. But in a capitalistic perspective, that's not true. In a capitalistic perspective, when people systematically pursue their self-interest, there's actually benefit for the whole. Things are better for society. And the reason for that is because when people pursue their self-interest, businesses will seek to gain more customers. They'll seek to gain more profits. They'll seek to get ahead in the markets. And when they do that, and when they compete against other businesses, what occurs is that customers get better quality, lower priced goods, and more diversity. So you have more of an ability to buy what you want. You have a greater ability to live the lifestyle that you want, and you have more options in terms of what lifestyle that you want to live. And overall wealth increases because business is generated, people are spending, and more people are employed, more and more people have money to spend. And so from a capitalistic perspective, that is why the invisible hand is good. That is why people systematically pursuing their self-interest is going to be good for the whole. There's no central control of investment, production, distribution of prices or commodities. There's no central figure, central planner, central government that says, here's what this ought to cost and here's what this ought not to cost. Capitalism believes in a very diffuse economic system where individual consumers and businesses are making individual transactions, and that is going to determine what prices are. If one business prices an item too high, consumers will signal their dissatisfaction by not buying. And that will lower the price of goods, or that business will go out of business, or they will cease to offer that product. And this is another central tenet. Prices are controlled by laws of supply and demand. If there's something that customers really, really want and there's not a lot of it, prices go up. Producers that generate the best quality and most affordable goods will be rewarded. They'll get the most profit. And the system rewards those who meet market desires and punishes those who fail to meet this desire. So if you're able to correctly identify what people want, you're good, you get the reward, you get a lot of money. And if you don't, you lose money. And I think it's interesting, just kind of as a self-activity, think about Newman, or think about your own life. Think if you were an entrepreneur, what would you sell? What product could you offer to the market that is either new, doesn't exist, or what product or service could you offer to the market that does exist, but you're doing it in a different way that customers may want more? And there's a couple videos that we're going to watch in this section of the course. One is this President Obama video, and it's kind of an old video, but it's really, really pertinent because it relates to the idea of entrepreneurship. And in entrepreneurship, and according to capitalism, those that take the risk in terms of offering a new product or service to the market, and who are correct, who correctly identify what consumers want, can get a huge, huge reward. They can become very, very rich. Just think of the Bill Gates of the world, who offered something to the world that it really, really wanted, and he was one of the first to do it. And obviously, he's a billionaire multi-times over. And so that's one of the tenets, this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And one of the ways it's defended, and one of the ways it can be defended on moral grounds, is you can say, look, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white, whether you're a woman or man, whether you're poor or rich, whether you're smart or not so smart. If you have an idea, if you have the idea that is creative and you have the ability to work for it and it meets consumer demand, you can win. You can get a lot of money. So some would defend the entrepreneurial system as being very egalitarian and very merit-based. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you've got an idea that meets consumer demand, you're going to win. Others might argue that and say, look, those that get a product to market are those that already have inherent advantages, connections, maybe their position in society, maybe the color of their skin. So you can kind of debate that. But in pure principle, anyone who has a good idea that serves consumer demand and desire should be able to win and get a lot of money. In the President Obama video, he makes a very interesting point. And really what he's doing is he's saying, look, those that think that they're rich or that they've been successful solely through their own efforts, solely because they were the most creative, or they were the hardest working, or they were the smartest. He's saying, look, that's not the case. Really, you had a social system to back you up. You had a government that provided schools for you. You had a government that provided the infrastructure that allows people to live their lives and to consume. You won't have the ability to buy and sell stuff, certainly at the level that we do and the way that we do, if you don't have a interstate highway system, for example. So he makes the case that against those people that think they're successful all on their own, that no, they're not. There's a society there to back them up. And he's also making this case because, ultimately the backdrop is that those that are rich, those successful, should potentially contribute more in taxation. So you have to think to yourself, do you agree with his position? Do you agree that the success of those that are entrepreneurs or those that are very well off in business, is it primarily due to society? If it is, do they owe more of their money to the government? Or would you say, yeah, maybe their success is a product or is supported by others, but it's them that ultimately did it? Or you might say, yeah, there's support in every person's life, but it's not necessarily coming from the government. And they've already paid their share. They've already paid back their debt to the government or society. So again, interesting kind of question. In terms of the morality of the system, some are going to argue, look, it is moral because it provides ownership. It allows individual initiative. It increases humanity's material well-being. And the justification, the primary justification, is that invisible hand theory that I've already spoken about, that people systematically pursuing their self-interest will ultimately be good for the whole. Now, there's certainly those that are critics and would say, no, the whole doesn't increase. In fact, capitalism exacerbates, expands, increases the gap between the wealth and the poor, and it increases people that have a lot of power and people that don't have any power. It increases people that control the products that are put on the market and other people that feel like they're just cogs in a machine. And at this point in the course, or in this point of the capitalism, I'm offering you two videos. One is a video that defends capitalism on moral grounds. And it's a YouTube video. It's on NULearn. And essentially what this video is saying is that capitalism is moral because if you are going to exist in society, you have to do something for your fellow man or woman. You have to provide a service. And if you don't provide a service, ultimately you're kind of taking for free. So when you buy something, in the example they give in the video is, let's say you go buy a piece of meat. What you're saying is that I want that butcher to work for me. I want that farmer to work for me. I want that grocery store to package it for me. I want everybody to do this for me because that's what I want. I want this piece of meat and I want to buy it now. But to produce that piece of meat, there's a whole bunch of people involved. The grain producers that make the grain for the beef, the cow. And if you don't contribute, if you don't offer something to the market in terms of a service or a product, then essentially you're saying, I want you to do this for me for free. And so in the video, they make the case that it's actually a moral system. Because you have to work, you have to contribute to your fellow man. And if you don't, you're going to be punished by being very poor or by ultimately, dying in a certain sense. They also make the case that, look, if you are a business and you're supported by government, then what is happening is the consumers don't have the choice of saying whether they want that business to exist or not. And ultimately, it should be consumers that determine whether a business should exist or not, according to capitalism. But if the government gets involved and says, you're bankrupt and you have failed, but here's money to keep you going, they're saying, look, you haven't offered the consumers what they want, but I'm going to take money from other people and I'm going to give it to you so that you can keep offering a product that consumers have signaled that they do not desire. Now, on the other hand, a critical view is found in the movie of I Am. And in this movie, there's two basic critiques of capitalism. Actually, three basic critiques. One, that it creates a materialistic sense of existence. That people in a capitalist society want more and more and more and associate well-being with material wealth. The video critiques that, objects to that, and says, no, that's a false sense of happiness. The video also says it creates capitalism, by this emphasis on self-interest, a very individualistic society. And that's where the YouTube video is really interesting, because it's saying, no, actually capitalism demands that you give to your fellow human being if you want to continue to be a successful person and a valued member of this community. But in the I Am video, it's saying, look, it creates individualistic people that are just out for themselves, that are focused on competition, and ignore their social responsibilities. And then finally, third critique is that capitalism uses too much resources, that we cannot sustain it. The need for unending growth, the need for constant consumption, the need for constant material increase and new products leads to the use of resources in an unsustainable way. In terms of other kind of questions, moral questions about capitalism, the book talks about this idea of low-cost production. The consequence is that when you create products that are very cheap, they're also very easily disposed of. And so American waste, for example, has doubled in the past 40 years. We produce more waste, and you can question whether that's sustainable. And whether we can continue to use resources in this way. There's also a moral issue with planned obsolescence, which is where producers create a product, that is essentially meant to break down before it need break down. And again, that goes to the issue of resource use and are we creating too much waste? An interesting kind of technological question. Some people debate this and they say, well, there's some that say we're going to use up all the world's resources. We're doomed. This is not good. There's others that kind of bet on technology and human innovation and that say we'll be able to use and be able to figure out ways to utilize resources in new capacities. An example of this would be the shale boom. Some, 20 years ago, 30 years ago would say we could never sustain oil production in terms of the level that we do now. But, we found new ways to extract oil from the ground, and perhaps we will continue to do so in the future. Other potential problems or issues with capitalism involve being overly successful. So a company that really taps into consumer demand and offers a great product at a low price, they become so successful that their competition goes out of existence. And this is the problem because capitalism very much values competition. And so to lose competition is bad. And in that case, you might say there's a need for government to get involved because we want to avoid monopolies. We want to avoid one company, completely taking over the market. And in that regard, there is some theoretical justification for government involvement in the markets. Capitalists will want to keep that intervention to a minimum, but there is some justification for particular kinds of intervention. Another problem, and when there's monopolies, the problem with this is that there's less variety, the prices can go up, consumers have less power because there's only one choice. Another issue is externalities. Is the true cost of a product built into that product? A classic example would be something like smoking. Smoking, to produce the cigarettes, you have to pay the tobacco producers, the people that grow it, the people that sell it, the people that manufacture the cigarettes, the people that sell it to you directly in terms of a store. But is the cancer and the illness produced by that cigarette built into the cost? The healthcare costs, the doctor costs. And some people said, well, that's why we should tax certain products more because that tax represents the true product price. And if you're going to buy it, fine, but you should bear the burden. You should bear the cost of what it takes to use that product. Okay, so with that, I'm going to kind of break off. It's already been long enough, but those are some of the key principles and key reasons to support capitalism and key reasons to question it.